Good morning, Spencer County. This is Chuck Adams, Superintendent, Spencer County Schools, coming to you from Spencer County Middle School Media Center this morning. And as this is the fourth edition of our webcast, I do want to take a moment to thank Mr. Mike Gross for giving his time to come down and film and perform this work for us in order to try to keep the county informed of what's transpired in the past week. We had a board meeting last night and a special called work session to try to begin piecing together some information as it relates to the opening of the school year. The first thing I want to discuss, however, is information in itself. Later on this afternoon, you will have a tab on the Spencer County School website page that will direct you to the Kentucky Department of Education. They have an entire series of COVID-19 pages that you may read at your leisure. Most of those are guidelines and options that individual school districts can take advantage of. As we begin developing our plan across the way, this information will become pertinent. However, I would also like to take a moment to address the fact, pay more attention to the specific documents listed under Spencer County Public Schools, because along with the KDE information that will be added to the website today, so will the transportation plan and the cafeteria plan for Spencer County Public Schools. With that, board meeting last night, we had some decisions to make, and in order to try to keep this school year as normal as we possibly can, considering these abnormal times, the first thing we did was adjusted the calendar. School will officially begin on Wednesday, August 26th. It will end on, I think it's a Wednesday also, of May 26th. What we did, because we have never taken the bare minimum of requirements for the children of Spencer County, we're able to begin school 11 days later, get out only a week later. We'll add 5 minutes to the end of each day, and therefore be able to provide 164 days of instruction, but also the required amount of hours, over 1,062 instructional hours. This plan will provide 1,066 instructional hours with the additional 5 minutes. Nothing else in the calendar has changed. The only thing that will change in future times is once we look at the amount of time that it's going to require for each 9-week break. Those will shift. However, nothing else in the calendar will change. Fall break remains the same. Spring break remains the same. The other days that we had marked off either for professional or district professional development stay the same. So with that, that's the best that we could do in getting the required amount of hours in, but yet not taking the calendar and changing it wholesale. Second item of business, as we discussed, was the changing of the start and end times. There is no changing to the beginning of the day. However, there will be 5 minutes added to the end of the day. So middle and high schools, rather than get out at 2:30, you'll be getting out at 2:35. Elementary schools, rather than 3:40, you'll be getting out of school at 3:45. There was some, I'm afraid, miscommunication somewhere along the way, which does happen from time to time when folks tend to overhear or take out of context or speculate. There was never any question in my mind as to what we were going to do with extracurricular and intracurricular activities, although there was discussion about it. Again, in order to keep this year as normal as possible in completely abnormal times, regardless of which selection parents choose, whether it's in-person learning or digital learning, as long as they are enrolled as a Spencer County student, they will in fact be able to participate in all extracurricular activities and all intracurricular activities. What we don't know at this point in time is the status of all of our athletics and sporting events. I know golf is prepared to begin as scheduled. The Kentucky High School Athletic Association will continue working on other individual sports and make that picture become more clear. But as it relates to Spencer County students alone, regardless of whether or not they choose the digital option or the in-school option, they will in fact qualify for extracurricular and intracurricular activities. Reflecting back on the calendar for just a moment, as I stated earlier, we have never in Spencer County just taken the bare minimum. That has come into play this year and is going to provide us a great deal of help. Simply because we will also be taking advantage of a statute that was passed a couple of years ago regarding a tourism bill that states if you begin after the Monday closest to Labor Day, you are then relieved of the instructional days, which would be 170 minimum. So by taking advantage of this and adding a few minutes to the calendar, we'll now have 164 instructional days. This provides 6 additional days for staff to prepare digital learning platforms, to prepare for the many safety operations and processes and procedures that will take place for in-person activities. The first day for staff, for teachers, will be August the 6th. That is the first professional development day in the calendar that was adopted back in early February. That has not changed. After that weekend, we will then be looking at fulfilling those 6 additional days that were built in without children, so teachers can in fact prepare that digital platform, can work collaboratively, and so forth. As we look at the instructional day process, the specific method of instructing in-person activities has not been selected yet, although we are getting close. What we know right now, instructionally, the first thing that needs to be discussed is this parental assurance for daily student health assessment for school year 2021. Now, this came straight from the Kentucky Department of Education page. It will have a slight modification to it as it relates to symptoms to fit Spencer County. A month ago, we were going to be required to take temperatures of every student before they got on the bus, and once again, when they arrived at school. This waiver of assurance and health assessment will be required for the parents to complete for students in in-person activities before the first day of school. People may ask, well, how? We do still intend on having open houses. Those open houses will look quite differently than they have in the past, as it may take an entire week to get everyone through. These open houses will be designed for both in-person learners as well as digital learners, simply because the vast amount of information that the principals will have at that time. Again, although we are closing in on our plan and processes for the year, things continue to change daily. Mr. Russell, the Director of Exceptional Child Services and Early Learning, will be addressing you next Friday and talking more specifically about preschool, kindergarten, and ECE students. And as an illustration of those changes, we were sitting at the board meeting last night when we found out that now kindergarten students and preschool students do not have to be masked to be on the bus. We already knew that they did not have to be masked while in the building, but that has again changed. Therefore, please stay patient with us as we try to take the rest of this information and mold it into the plan that we have forthcoming. We know that loading the bus back to front is going to take place. We know that students will be in assigned seats. We know that when they arrive at school, they will have their temperatures checked. We'll have additional staff members in the car rider line as well as the bus rider line to do this. We're hoping that we have the ability to check temperatures of our younger students while they're still in the car. If they are dropped off and deemed showing symptoms and mom and dad has already driven away, then we'll have to isolate them in a room inside the building until mom or dad can come back and pick them up. So that's the importance of the health assurance waiver that's going to be requested as well. Once in the school, those plans have not changed as it relates to masks. If we cannot maintain social distance, masks must be worn at all times. If we can maintain social distance, we can then mask off during times when we are 6 feet apart. The only thing the Board of Education did not approve last night was the exact method of in-person. And again, because the numbers in registration and the numbers of the surveys and the feedback drive the ultimate decision on how this will operate. We began with 53% of our parents feeling comfortable sending their child to school 3 weeks ago. We're now up to 75% based on the latest information. I am aware that there was the miscommunication somewhere along the line as it relates to extracurricular and intracurricular. That may change some minds. It probably will change some minds. That's why the registration continues to stay open, so we can keep track of that data as it changes daily. Once we have a better grip on exact numbers, grade distributions, and so forth, the Board of Education will act on an instructional plan at the July meeting, and that's what will be set in stone unless the governor or whomever, the powers that be, decide that this pandemic is more than we can handle and shuts everyone down. Other than that, and short of that, and irregardless of what surrounding school districts decide to do, we will be conducting in-person activities. A couple of things before I dismiss today. As I had talked about, open houses, those will take place. However, until the board chooses which instructional process we'll go with, the open houses are not scheduled as of yet. I'm fairly certain that they will take place after August 6th, which is the first day we'll have staff in place and going through their trainings. But somewhere between the 9th up until the 24th or 5th, whenever that last day is before classes are scheduled to begin, open houses will take place. Please take advantage of the tabs on the school district website. I know it's going to be information overload, but it will help you to provide a plan for your child and your student as it may impact a decision on whether to bring them to school or continue to opt for the digital learning plan. The last announcement I have is the August 1st senior celebration will take place. Again, those specifics are not known yet because of the numbers. Once we have a better grip on how many students and parents and family members we can host at any given time, that information will become more available and will be pushed out as quickly as we know. For this week, once again, we thank you for your patience. We thank you for your support. We ask your blessings on this district, and in return, I ask for prayers for your family through this difficult time, and hopefully we will get through this one way or the other. Thank you, and have a blessed weekend.